Hello and welcome to the Goals and Glory podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison. And I was smiling like a wee boy because that's exactly how I feel. Somebody said to me once, you should never meet your heroes. Well, I'm completely going against that, and I am meeting a hero tonight. Somebody that I watched and watched and watched through the terraces, loved pretending to be him, but was never quick enough and never skillful enough. But you always wanted to be like this guy. And when the chant went up on the terraces, everybody joined in because he was everybody's favourite. He's here, he's there, and you know what? He's on the Goals and Glory podcast. Let's not waste any time and bring him in, the one and the only Mickey Weir. Hello, sir.
Hello, Bruce. How are you?
Yeah, very, very excited. You've been out playing five-a-sides.
Yeah, I've been playing. It started off a five-a-side, but it ends up a bit ten-a-side. I think it was ten-a-side with I play every Wednesday with the taxi driver, so I better give them a shout out there. My good friend, the good taxi drivers, love it, absolutely love it. Wouldn't miss it for the world. It's absolute mayhem at times with them, but it's great. It's really, really good. Keeps me fit and keeps me. I just enjoy doing it, Bruce. I just enjoy playing football, But as I say, the day I've just got back, very sore, but happy to have a chat with you.
How's your touch?
In a word, terrible. Terrible, but no, it's good to just go and make a fool of yourself for an hour and kid on that you can play football again. But no, as I say, I just enjoy it. Just enjoy the banter with the lads and the talk and whatever. But as I say, it can be a bit of a madhouse at times. It's a competitive game, really competitive. But I love it. I just love it. They make me laugh. And when I come home at night, it's just great. You get a buzz for it. Just playing football again. So.
Are any of the other players? Any of the rest of them played a bit?
Yeah, they've all played good level. They've all played a good level. I don't maybe amateur, junior, but they're all just football players. You can see they've all played. And as I say, I just go along. I was invited along, and honestly, Bruce, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I love it. I was just invited along. I went along, and I thought, well, get a go, and I just enjoy it. Go along, and you just didn't know what. But from week to week, it gets worse. Because there's. It just makes me laugh. I come home every time I jump in the car, I've got a smile on my face, thinking about something that happened in the game, So, but that's what football's all about. Just enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Just enjoy the company of the lads and all, because they're a good bunch, and it gets a bit rowdy at times, but I wouldn't have it any other way,
Did it ever feel like a job? Was there ever a point in your career where it felt like it was tough to get up in the morning?
Never. No, never. When you were injured, when I was injured, that was tough, because any footballer will tell you that the worst part of football is being injured, and I had my fair share of injuries, but that was the toughest point. But as soon as you got back in playing again, no, I loved every minute. I wouldn't have changed it for the world, and I would do anything to go out and play football again, But unfortunately, had my time, thoroughly enjoyed it, and no regrets. The only regrets I've got is the kind of time I went through with bad injuries, that destroyed me. It really hurt me. But I had to get through it and eventually got the best I could out of my body, but realised early that, my small frame wasn't quite ready for to play week in, week out. Especially at that level, at that level you've got to be really fit every week and you've got to be on it. So struggled with that, but no, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. No.
Some of the big lads loved to give you a kick as well, didn't they?
No, it was a different game then. It was a completely different game. Sometimes I wish I was playing in this era because although the players are they're so fit nowadays. The players are so fit, But we could have a wee breather in the games, when we played. But it's not like that now. But no, it was a tough old game. But it was just the way it was back in the day. That was you had to be able to take it, and if you couldn't, you wouldn't survive much, But that was just the way the game was.
There was no other choice, was there? It had to be Hibs for you.
Yeah, it was I was just born and bred a Hibs supporter, So my family were all Hibs supporters, and my dad was there was no way I was going anywhere else. Once I was asked to sign for the Hibs, that was it. You're signing for the Hibs. Okay, Dad, I'll sign for the Hibs, But he didn't. I think I've said it a few times. He never told me that there was other clubs involved. They were quite were looking to make go down trial and that. But once he found that Hibs were in, that was it. It was just a done deal, you know. No choice, Bruce. Straight in, get in with it. That was it.
So how did that work then? Was he getting phone calls to the house phone saying we'd like your boy to come and trial with us, and he just didn't let you know?
Do that. No, I never knew till later on that I'd heard a couple of other clubs had been involved. But I just, as far as I knew, it was Hibs, you know. So the great Pat Stanton offered me a contract after a game. I phoned my dad and said we'd like to offer him a contract, and my dad done the deal over the phone himself. I never had much choice in it. We just, you're going to Hibs, and that was it. So okay, Dad. So that was it really. But no, as I say, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Great to play for the club that you supported, you know, and made your family proud as well. You know, to play for the club that they all supported and that. There was pressure that went with it as well, though. You know, so. It wasn't always great, Bruce. You know, if you had a bad game, you soon got told about it. Put it that
way. They must have been, I mean, proud to see you run out and play, score goals, beat folk. But when you then get the whole Easter Road chanting, "He's here, he's there," I mean, you must have felt 25 feet tall.
Yeah, I had a great. The supporters were great with me. I have no fault with the supporters. They were great with me. I think it was because I was 5'2", with my hands up, you know, trying to make a career in football. But no, they were always great. I think they realised, you know, that it was a struggle with my hands, Bruce, being the size I was, you know, and they all seemed to take to me and wished me as best I could, you know. So no, they were great. But as I say, when you went out there just to play for the Hibs was. You know, it was, when I first went out to play for Hibs, the pressure you felt was unbearable at times, you know. When you were young, you just wanted to do so well. But once you got into it, you start to realise that, you know, you're playing for the club you support. It was special times, you know, special times.
How often were you told you were too wee?
Oh, every day in training. You know, I actually thought my name was Wee Man. I started to realise my name was Michael when I was about 21 or something. It was always Wee Man, you know, and everybody called me Wee Man. So, no, it was just when I was younger. It was obviously when you were young, you always heard that, you know, you're a bit too small. And I think I've said it a few times. I kind of gave up. I gave the game up for a few years, just simply because I was quite, you know, I was hurt with all the people telling me I was too small, you know, but. It was my granddad and my dad that got me back into it because I was getting myself in a wee bit of trouble and running about with the wrong people sort of thing. So I started getting back into the game of football again. It happened so quick for me, Bruce. You know, it happened really quick. Got back playing again, and then within about I'd say a year and a year a bit, I was signed for the Hibs. So it happened very quick, you know.
So was that granddad and dad's plan? He's getting himself in bother. We need to occupy him a wee bit.
Yeah, that was it. Two things they got me was they got me back into football and they got me a pigeon hut. That was it. Keep me off the streets because I wasn't really that way anyway, Bruce. You know, but I think they were just a bit worried I was going to get myself in trouble. You know, so I've got both. I've got you're playing football again, and which I did, and then I got the pigeon hut and anything to keep me off the streets in these days. You know, so and it worked. It worked.
You had to be brave though, because it wasn't easy to say no to that.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It's just like everything else. When you're out with your friends and that, you go with the flow, don't you? If there's things happening, I was never like that. I must admit, I wasn't like. I was terrified of it. I mean, I was terrified of my dad. I was terrified of my dad. You know, anything else. But my dad used to say to me, just make sure you don't bring anybody. The police didn't come to my door, or nobody comes to my door, and you'll be all right. So I was terrified of that, Bruce. You know. So that was me. That kept me in the straight and narrow. I didn't, but it was never for me anyway. I knew when to get away from things. You know, I knew I wasn't I couldn't fight. Put it that way, I wasn't a fighter or that. It was more a watcher than a fighter. So I stayed at the road of that. But no, as I say, my dad was a big influence on me. My granddad, and that, they were big influences to help me, you know, get back into football again.
What was it like being at school then? Did you just want to have a ball at your feet all the time?
Yeah, it was. It was. I was just like everybody else, you know, and I was very lucky because I had a good teacher at my school, Mr. Hamilton, who was the games teacher back in the day, you know, and I wasn't the best in class, Bruce, you know. I wasn't the best in class. And I was too busy looking at the window trying to look for pigeons and couldn't concentrate, you know, I wasn't concentrate. I couldn't concentrate on things. So, but he actually said to me, you know, he said, if you study, it's true, he said to me, if you can study, try the best in class, Michael. I'll make sure the gym's open for you. Have the gym open for me at dinner time. You can come in here. And we used to have the old hockey goals, you know, it was old hockey goals and they looked great, you know, when you were young. I used to go in there with my mates, all the boys, and we'd go in there and play at dinner time. He'd say, right, you can get in, and we'd go in and play football. And I always tried to practice, you know, so he was a big help to me. Because I tried my best basically because I thought, well, if I do my best, but I used to say, if I hear anything in class, if you're getting in trouble in class, I'll make sure you don't get in the gym and just all that kind of stuff. But my teachers were very good to me, you know. I must admit, they helped me. They helped me on the road to playing football.
How much do you get asked to go and speak to young players or kids? Because I think your story is amazing, and there's loads of lessons in what you've done that youngsters could be picking up on. Do you ever get asked for that?
Yeah, I've done loads, Bruce, just like they are tonight, you know, just having a wee chat about football and my journey in football and what started and that, but how I started and what happened to me. Yeah, I do quite a lot. I always try to help younger people, you know, especially young football players that think, you know, they might get released for a club, Bruce, you know, early on, and it's not the end of the world. But for a young lad at 10 or 11-year-old, it must feel like that to get released, you know. So I just try them to tell them, you know, give it your best, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. Try and enjoy it, you know. Try and enjoy. But it's hard to say that to a young lad, you know, if he's in at a football club and he's, you know, he's maybe gets released or something. It's hard to. It breaks their hearts, you know, young. So I don't like that. I've never ever liked that. I don't believe in it, to be honest. I think to try and judge a player at 11-year-old, I think it's a nonsense, to be honest. But it does happen. It's just it's the pitfalls of football, unfortunately. No, but I do a lot. Well, I try my best to I try and give young people, especially small players, you know, small footballers. I try and give them a bit of advice, but it's really all down to yourself, you know, to give it your best lot, give your best you can, train as best you can, live your life the best you can, and if it works for you, it happens. But it's not the end of the world if it doesn't. You know, there's other careers, but trying to say that to a young man, it's difficult, you know.
Who was your role models when you were in your teenage years? Who did you look at on the pitch and think that's what I want to be like?
It was always looked at small players. It was always small players. It was like, oh, can look back to. I never seen, but my dad back in the days, you never seen a lot, you know, because you only seen bits of TV. There wasn't like nowadays exposure. Now is incredible. But I used to go and you see your Jimmy Johnstons and you know. Well, I used to support the Hibs. Alec Edwards was the one I looked at, you know, and all the small players, to be honest, you know. And then when I got into professional, I played. I look at like say Gordon Strachan. I used to try and look at Gordon Strachan, study him, see you know, but he was a much better player than me. But you know, you started to learn the sort of position that he played because he played sort of wide right as well. So believe it or not, I used to drive all the way up to Aberdeen and watch him playing just to learn how to play that position. People wouldn't believe the miles I used to put in, but I was determined to get the best out of myself. You know, I was determined to do that. So I used to study smaller players, especially smaller players, because there was a lot I was going about at that time.
When you were a kid, was there always a game that you were playing, or were you kicking a ball against the wall? Were you working on your left foot? Were you dribbling out of milk bottles? What were you doing? What was wee Mickey like?
Bruce, I practiced every day for hours. You know, hours. Honestly, myself, my big Keith Wright. I always tell him about the things I used to get up to. I used to practice, come home from school, and if I wasn't go running, I would go down the park and I would practice as much as I could. I used to have and I stayed in Clermont at the time, there used to be trees round this park, and I used to put a ball down, and I'd strike the ball at the tree, and if they missed the tree, it used to go right down this hill, and you had to go and chase it, you know. So I used to put the ball down, and it was amazing because you used to study, you make sure you set up and go, right, get a good strike it and hit it. If I can hit that tree, see if you missed it, it was a nightmare because you'd have to go back and then go all the way around it. There's things I've done, but I've always said that, and I always will say, I think the key to myself is definitely practice. I've practiced and practiced. Not to be a professional football player, Bruce, you know, just to be the best I could. You know, best I would, you know, because my biggest fault is I hate losing, you know. I'm a bad loser. I'm terrible. I'm embarrassed. I get embarrassed about it at times, you know. Even when I play 5-a-side with the boys, I get embarrassed. And I hated losing at anything. So I wanted to win at everything. So that was what it was like. So I thought if I played any kind of game of football, I wanted to win, you know. And that's what that was my mindset was practice, get the best, make sure I could be the best I could. And I've always been like that. And I always say that to players, you know, practice is the key to being the best you can at football or anything, really, you know. Practice makes perfect, and that's the way I was. That was my mindset as a young man.
When you were playing age group football in Edinburgh, who were the big shots? Who were the names that everybody spoke about?
Well, there was loads of players, you know, loads of players back then. But I kind of came late into the game, you know. I was a sort of late developer, so I came in later into the game. But when you went to play, back then there was a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, you know, really good players. So I kind of came on the scene a bit later. But you knew right away, you know, when you played against these players, they were all good players, you know, but you just had to. I always felt that if I was fit, you know, I used to train all the time, I always kept myself fit. And I used to think to myself, well, if I'm fitter than him, you know, I've gave myself a wee chance. And that was my mindset, you know. I've got to make sure he might be bigger than me, taller than me, stronger than me, but I'm going to be fit. I'm going to be really fit. And it served me well, you know, because I always looked at that, the fitness. So, but no, back then there was good players in every team you played against was really good players, you know. So, and you had to, and it made you up your game a wee bit, especially when I went in kind of later into the game. These guys were all kind of, you know, renowned football players on that level, so you had to just get. But that was the first thing I said to myself, right, I need to get really fat because I was carrying a wee bit, let's say. I was carrying a wee bit for a wee while, and I thought, no, I need to get myself fit, and that's the way I looked at it, you know.
And you then go to Hibs, and there was an amazing group of young players there, and it seems like you all became pals pretty quickly. Was that how it was?
Yeah, it was great bunch of guys. I was very fortunate. Two things was I was fortunate in the players I played with, young guys, really good players, and the role models. The players around about me, great professionals, you know. Gordon Ray, you know, Ralph Callaghan, Benny Brazil, great professionals, guys that really helped you, you know, because they knew, as I said before, they knew I had a fight on my hands being the size I was, but Ralphie and that were great to me. They would always encourage you, you know. They would give you a kick up the backside when you needed it, put it that way, but Ralph and that were good. They always, you know, they always encouraged me because, as I say, they knew that, you know, I had a chance, but I had to work really hard at it, Bruce. You know, nothing was given to us. You know, we all worked hard at it. Myself, Paul Kane, Johnny Collins, Gordon Hunter, you know, Willie Muller. There was so many of them, all hard workers. You know, back then you had to really, to give yourself a chance in the game, you needed to train hard and work hard. You know, and it worked for a lot of us. But no, a great bunch of guys. It was great times, great laughs. You know, I used to get every single day. It was just a great laugh. You know, it was just lucky. I was lucky to see me walking in to play for the Hibs at 16, 17-year-olds. You know, it's just never I believed that 3 or 4 months before that I was playing sort of at Jack Kane Centre or, you know, Duddingston or doing at St Mark's Park, in as I say, 3 or 4 weeks later on, I'm playing at Easter Road, and you know, it happened so quick, you know. But you learn very quickly when you played with good players as well, really good players. Your game had to up. You had to up your game. But nah, great times, great laugh as well, great boys.
One of the things, me looking back at that team, I was telling Joe Tortolano this story. I followed Eddie May round the Asda at the Jewel as a wee kid because I couldn't believe Eddie May was doing his shopping in Asda. But there was so many local boys playing at Hibs at the time that it was your job. You were a professional football player, but
Yeah,
it seemed like you really wanted to play for Hibs, and that seemed to make the fans appreciate you, and you knew what it meant to play for Hibs. Is that true?
yeah, well, 100%. It was. I never ever, I never ever walked into anywhere thinking I was any special. You know, I still think I'm like that today. I've never changed my ways. I don't think I have anyway. But I never ever walked into anywhere, the shops or anywhere, thinking I'm special. Never. I always was always, more than grateful for a chance of becoming a football player. I wasn't brought up that way anyway, Bruce. My family would never have had me being trying to be something I wasn't. I'm still the same that today. I believe in, being grateful for chances you've got in life. That was the way I looked at it. So I never ever. I used to go in. Some people used to say to me, "Why are you going in there and what are you doing that?" I never ever seen it that way. The only time I ever got hassles was maybe when it was a Hibs Hearts derby. That's when all the trouble started. You go to petrol stations and you'd have a couple of Hearts supporters in the petrol station giving you abuse, and then if you got beat, I never used to go to that petrol station. And if you won, you would go in that petrol station, all that stuff. But I must admit, no, I never used to. We never ever walked. I think I could say that for a lot of players. It was never that tight then, Bruce. You just went about your daily routine. But you had to realise as you got older that you realised there was some places you couldn't go into. You had to stay out the road. But I found that to my cost a few times, put it that way. But it never, as I say, I never ever looked at it, and I don't think I'm like that as a person anyway, Bruce. I've never been like that as a person.
That young team of players and Hibs needed those young players because they couldn't afford to go into the transfer market as it was at the time. They needed to develop their own players, but you came through and you all just seemed to love, or it seemed like it to me as a wee boy at the time. You seemed to love playing for Hibs, getting a chance to play at Easter Road, and there was that kind of confidence, I suppose, that comes with being young.
Yeah, I definitely. Another thing is you would go the extra mile for your pal, like say Kanos and Gordon Hunter, Willie Miller. They were all your friends, eh? They were all your pal. You went the extra mile for them, and you wouldn't have anybody saying a bad thing about them, or uh, I had a lot of guardians, I had a lot of players that would look after me. I had a lot of players that looked after me, Big Gordon Hunter and that, they were great with me, and wee Willie Miller. You always felt safe, Paul Kane, you felt safe on the pitch, because you would just go that extra mile because you were brought up together, you worked every single day for hours together, and doing all the jobs together, all the banter, all the fun, and it was just like a wee team, and eventually we all ended up in the first team. It just happened, because of the struggles the clubs were going at the time. They had to go with young players, and but when you got in there and that, no, and I'm still close to them all today. A lot of them today, I don't see as much as them as I should actually. But when you meet up, it's great to see them all again and that. They come up with all the old stories and that. It was just great. It was just great. Every single day there was something happening. You would not believe it. Some of the stuff that we used to get up to, but it was just great. And like you said, we just loved playing for our club. Played for your club and very fortunate to do so.
What was the changing room like? Turning up to training at Easter Road and before games with that kind of young team, and then some of those old heads looking after you. It must have just been like being with your pals.
Oh, it was great. It was honestly, but the thing that we had for a lot of them, Bruce, was was the experienced players. You know, you had respect for the experienced players. You know, I mind you used to have to knock on the door to go into their changing room. No, I used to have my mop and pail. You'd have your mop and pail, and you'd have to knock on the changing room door, put your head in, and say, "Is it all right to come in?" And the boys would go, "Aye," and you come, or they'd say, "No, give us 5 minutes." And the respect was unbelievable. And then I never ever went. You never ever went in the first team, you know, in that changing room, unless one, you were in the squad, or two, you were cleaning it. That was it. You very rarely went in it, but we used to wait till the first team players gone away before you'd go in there, and that's when all the nonsense started, you know, because going to each other, and we used to have the cold hoses going, and it was just absolute madness. When the old experienced players went away, and the cat's away, the mice would play, as they say, Bruce, you know, and we used to have it was nuts, but it was brilliant at the same time, you know.
Are modern players missing that they didn't have that apprenticeship?
I think so, yeah. As I say, I think it's great for you, you know, because it was an apprenticeship, and it was hard, Bruce. You know, you'd done the hours. I mean, you'd been there for like sometimes 8 o'clock, 8:30, maybe, and you were there till sometimes 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and you painted. You know, you cleaned the place up, and you'd paint the chairman's. The chairman would get you to come and paint his house and things like that. You know, you were just a dog's body for everybody. You know, but that's the way it was, and it was a test. It was a test for you as well, because the manager would tell you, you know, right, I want that done today, and you'd have to go out and some of the predicaments we got ourselves into, it was just nuts. But you look back now, you go, but the apprenticeship was I think it was massive for us, because it built your character as well, Bruce. You know, it built, because the amount of stuff that happened to you, sometimes you were terrified to go into a room. You know, either as a pail falling off the. You know, it was set. They used to set traps with each other. And you know, big pails of water on the door. So when you opened the door, it would just fall on your head, and it was just that stuff went on. Cold hoses and all sorts of. It was unbelievable. But that was the fun of it. But it was hard work as well, and it was an apprenticeship as such. You know, you had to do everything: clean boots, do the straps, and then clean the changing rooms, and you got to remember, it was a big terrace, and then the big huge terrace in by way back, and it used to take you hours. You know, you had to brush it all the way along and all the way down, and then you'd have to go into the gullies, and it was never ending. You know, you used to go home absolutely shattered, but I would never changed it for the world. You know, it was just great times.
Who was the worst? Who was the biggest slacker?
Oh, there was a few of them. I will not name names, but there was a big lad, big ginger-headed laddie called Hunter. He was a nightmare. He was just big. Jeevesy just didn't. If Jeevesy didn't fancy it, that was it. No, but it was the same in training. You know, big Jeevesy. Hated training, but put him on a football pitch, Bruce. And great player. Put him on a football pitch, and he was a winner. And he would kick his granny. He'd do anything on a football pitch. He used to just switch on, you know. Take him off the pitch. Wasn't interesting, you know. But I loved him for it, because he used to just make me laugh. As I say, if people only knew what you're like, they wouldn't believe it. But as I say, when they went in a football field, different animal altogether, you know. But it was a few. Everybody ducked and dived, Bruce. Everybody done it, you know. You had to duck and drive. If you didn't, you'd end up with all the tough jobs, you know. It was mad.
I love it. I wish I could have seen it. You're probably glad that there was no social media then.
Oh no. There's things that we got up to. I was telling the guys the other day, there was a wee story I was telling them about we had the old Alec here, God rest his soul. He was the groundsman at Hibs at the time, and he was hardware Bruce, you know. He used to go to the manager with everything, you know. If something went wrong, I'm going to go and see the manager. And we go, no. And the manager, Pat Stamp, would pull us in, have a right go at us. So we said, one time we said, right, we've got to get him back. So there was a big goalkeeper time boy called Treacle. We called him Treacle. Kevin Wilson, his name was. And we were cleaning the terrace in one day, and Alec came out with his garden, a wee garden. It was just a wee stupid gardening thing. He went. It was just about 2 wheels on it, and I used to supposed to cut the grass. I didn't actually cut the grass, but it looked the part, So he's come out with this wee motor thing, and he's come out in the park with it, and we're all saying. And I remember Chico saying, "Wait for it, guys, wait for it." And all he heard was bang. And we looked round and Alec Kerr's jumped off this wee motor thing, and there's oils coming sprouting out, and it's all went on the pitch. 2 days before there's a game. Oh, and he's looking up at us, and we were on pieces, but we got heavily sorted for that though. But Mr. Stanton was got mad. And he said it was him, and we had to just make sure it wasn't us. So we had to make it wasn't. We never done it in that, but a certain person put some stones inside it that just went back. But the stuff we got up to, but brilliant, great laugh.
Just daft laddies, I love it. What was it like having Pat Stanton, Mr. Hibs, as your, the man looking out for you?
It's just hard to explain, Bruce. You can imagine. I was growing up watching Pat Stanton, Jimmy Root, George Stewart, Alec Edwards, all these guys, and then suddenly he's a manager. You're the manager. You're walking in, and he's your manager. And we go and play. We play in games, and honestly, Bruce, he was still the best player. It was just like, what a football player, unbelievable. And he used to play and go, he was just class. He just had class all over him. Never gave the ball away. His touch was unbelievable. I remember going in thinking, we've got a lot to learn here, because you join in the games, eh? But Pat, great man as well. He never said too much, but when he said something, he's still the same. If he said something to you, you would listen to it, But I was like, it was my dad's hero, and I used to go home, and my dad would be asking me 100 questions. What did Pat do today? And what was he like doing this, and what was he like doing that? And I said, Dad, he's just what a football player, He said, I told you that, son. What a player, eh? I went, aye. But he didn't realise it, and then obviously he was your manager, but it took a wee bit of time because you were starstruck. You're looking and you're going, this is Pat Stanton, But for a Hibs supporter, just to go into him, he was just amazing. But he had such an aura about him as well, And people would just, it's still the same. Pat's still the same. If you go to him, people draw into him, just go towards him. He's just such a good guy. He was like that, but he helped me as well, helped us so much. He was great with me as well, but they all were. Jimmy Rourke and George Stewart and that were great people, great. All Hibs men, proper Hibs men, and they let you know what it meant to play for the Hibs every single day. Jimmy Rourke used to say, remember, wee man, you're playing for the Hibs. You're playing for the Hibs. That was it, every day. It was kind of sunk in your head, but they were great lads, great people.
So you've done all that, and now you're getting to play. The apprenticeship's done. You're a professional football player. Were you pinching yourself? Did you take it for granted? Was every day bouncing out of bed? How did it feel?
Oh, it was great. No, but as I say, I never took it for granted. No, never. Always knew that when you went in there, you had to train hard, and we all did. We all put the hours in. And, we do extra training. We go to Meadowbank Stadium and do extra sprint training. You were always trying to get better because you had to, because you're thinking, you never got long-term contracts, Bruce, so you got maybe a year contract, so you were always fighting to try and get the next year, until they seen, well, he maybe be out a first team player. So every day was hard. It was all hard work, but you were learning every day as you went along and all, because you're playing with really good players, and great pros who would teach you. And they were tough for you as well at times, they were really tough for you. You had to realise that, when you're at that level of football, a bad pass or, just wrong decisions could be fatal, and you learn that very quickly. You know, especially when I'm screaming at you. They started screaming at you if you gave the ball away. But it was a tough school. It was a tough school, but as I say, it was so. Every single day, you were always learning. You're always picking something up, you know. But when you're looking at these players and you think that's where I've got to get to, you know. Looking at Ralph Callaghan, he was a very good player. You look and you think that's the level I need to get to, you know. So you were always looking at it and thinking, well, I've got a bit to come. You've got a bit to come. I never ever felt safe, you know. Never. You always felt next year could be the year that you're out, you know, one of the ones. So you just had to keep going.
So how did that work then? Did the manager call you into the office and say, "Here's what we've got"? No agent.
No agent, no, it was no agent. Well, it was all YTS schemes in that day, you know. My first year was a 2-year contract, YTS, and it was about 25 quid a week or something like that. And it was just a YTS scheme, and then that was your chance, you know. And I remember walking in and thinking to myself, they're going to have to throw me out here because I'm going to give everything I can. They're going to have to throw me out of this place. And that's the way I kept in my mind: work hard, train hard, do the best you can. And if I wasn't good enough, Bruce, then I would have been okay, you know. I thought, well, I've gave it everything, you know. But I was fortunate to get another, and then you got a contract after it. But it was quite brutal, you know. It was, you used to take you in the changing room and just point you out. Well, you're getting a contract, you're not getting a contract. It was like that, you know. And it was tough, but it was terrifying at the same time, you know, just terrifying. Think, oh God, so. But that was just the way it was, back then. Tough school, but every day was it was great, you know, every day was great.
And you're then playing top level. It was Hearts the game you were like when the fixture list came out. Were you looking for the derbies, or was that just a game?
Well, obviously when you first went in, nobody and nothing can get close to a derby. You know, nothing gets close to the derby. It's and nothing can prepare you for it, Bruce. You know, you can be the most calm person, you know, but when you go into an Edinburgh derby, it finds you out very quickly, you know. And if you've got a wee bit about you, you'll be okay. But if you've no, it can be an unforgiving place, you know. But I was excited when the first derbies. I was always just excited. I thought to myself, you know, at least I can turn around and say to my dad, I've played in an Edinburgh derby. You know, just one would have done me. But no, there was nothing compared to it. Nothing went close to it. Just that rivalry and the intense nature of the game and everything it meant to people, you know, and then the backlash after it. Oh, oh, it was a nightmare, you know. But you go into hiding for 2 weeks. Well, you know, you go into hiding for 2 or 3 weeks. Funny enough, like you man, I've not seen you going out. I've not seen you out in the tune and that. Well, I'm not feeling well and all that nonsense, you know. But you just have to take it, you know. And I took a few of them. I took a few hidings, so you had to take it and just get on with it. But great games, you know. The atmosphere, everything about it was just same for the supporters as well, Bruce. You know, you can't beat the special games that you know, you do anything to play in another one again. You know, do anything to play in another Edinburgh derby. But
being an Edinburgh boy, obviously you knew it. Guys that came into the club that you didn't have that many foreign players, but if a player comes in, did one of the local boys sort of take him aside and go, "Listen, this is what this means," or did you just let them find out?
no, a lot of times they were always pre-warned about the derby. You know, everybody. But football, you know, players understand it right away. You know, they get to know it. But no, there was always. You get the Edinburgh boys would understand it, you know, they would kind of pass it on to them, you know, but the derby on Saturday, whenever it was. So they kind of knew what it was about, but nothing prepares you for it, you know, nothing prepares you for it, that game. But the players that came into it, they found out very quickly, you know, how special a day it was and how important it was to to try and win them, you know. That was the thing. But as I say, the games themselves, they were just special days.
Did you have mates in the Hearts team?
Not too many. I've got more mates today than I did then, you know, because it was just the way it was, Bruce. You know, it was just like all out war. You know, it was just like, you know, he went to a derby and it just meant everything to us and it meant everything to them. I had respect for them all. You know, I had respect for Gary Mackay and, you know, Robbo and all these guys. I had respect for them, you know, but they were the same as us. They were desperate to win for their team. And we were desperate to win for our team. But they're kind of, as you know, at that time there was maybe four or five Edinburgh boys in each team, you know, so it was just all out war, you know. It was just like, but sometimes you could just put the ball away. Sometimes I used to say, why are we playing with the ball here? You know, there's no point in playing with the ball here because everybody just kicked lumps at each other, you know. But that's the way the derby was, and it was just the way it was. But it was a ferocious game. But as I say, I had a lot of respect for them all. But now I know a lot of them. You know, it's amazing when you look back and you speak to them, and I keep in touch. I know quite a few of them now. But back then, no, it was like you wouldn't mix with each other. Then it was just didn't work. Didn't work, Bruce. You know, but it was just the way the game was, and I don't think it's changed in that respect. I don't think it's changed. You know,
if you were up the street having a beer or with boys having a beer on a Saturday night and the Hearts boys walked in, would they turn and walk out, or would you have socialised?
No, it was always different. I didn't drink, but when I went up, whenever I seen them up the town or that, no, they had respect for each other. You know, you didn't just walk by each other and that, but it's just football's football, eh? No, if I ever seen any of them up the town and never had a problem, you chat away to them, you know. But never on a derby day, never on a derby night. No, stayed out the road yet, you know. Because I say, I never had the greatest days in the derby, so they weren't the best, you know. So, but no, I had respect for them. I had plenty of respect for them because I knew, you know, you knew what they were going through as well, how much it meant to them, as much as what it meant to us, you know. So you had that respect in that. But as I say, never changed it. It was fantastic to play in these games, you know. The big games with the big atmospheres. That's what football's all about, isn't it? Really.
When you were with Hibs and then you went and had your wee spell with Luton Town, what was that like? Did you see that as a big opportunity? Was that a chance to go and spread your wings a wee bit?
It was a bit of both. To be fair, I've said I was a bit impetuous, you know. I had a few run-ins with the manager at the time and just nonsense stuff, you know. But then I went on a wee holiday down there for a wee while, and I came back up. But I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. But it was a kind of I started getting problems with my back and my hamstrings and just wee niggles that were annoying me because we used to train on the pitch at the time, you know, just it was a decent pitch, but it wasn't like nowadays. The AstroTurfs nowadays are beautiful, but the days it was quite tough. So when I started going home at night and I was in agony, you know, and I thought it was really annoying me, Bruce. You know, I'd never suffered that kind of. I'd always had problems with my back, but it was just annoying me, and I started getting hamstring problems, and I thought to myself, it was just one day. Actually, to play. I think it was Wimbledon, and I done my hamstring. Tore my hamstring, and it was like black and blue, and I thought, this is it. And it annoyed me so much, you know. I thought, I can't do this any longer, you know. And I just knew if it's going to be like this for a wee while, I know. But I also knew that I was missing home, you know. I was missing the intensity of Edinburgh, believe it or not, you know. Jumping out the car and somebody calling you a Hibby B or whatever it may be. And I missed all that, you know. It was incredible, but it was these kind of things, believe it or not, I did miss it, you know, and I missed just your friends. I was still young at the time, but I was impetuous and I jumped at it. I was given the chance to go and I jumped at it. But I say I enjoyed it, but there were certain things that just were starting to annoy me, so I decided to come away back from my holiday and back up the road.
Was there anything you saw there that you thought we should be doing more of that, or actually we're better than folk maybe give us credit for?
I always felt that the Scottish game is quicker. You know, in England, I felt they had more time on the ball. You know, I don't know what it was, but the Scottish game is just hurly burly. You know, it was really quick and intense. But when I went down there, you kind of sometimes you'd get the ball and nobody come near you. You know, it was a entirely different game. I found it quite strange because you're expecting to get whacked. You know, expecting somebody to come and go and smash you or get close to you, but it was more technical, you know. It was a bit like that. They'd sit off you, and which I was happy with because I was used to getting booted up in the air or typical Scottish game. But the game it wasn't as intense. I found that out very early that it was more technical than it was up here. It was up here it's still the same. The Scottish football is so underrated. The Scottish game, I've always said, is so underrated. Yes, we mightn't have the the culture and the game that everybody wants, but to play in the Scottish Premier League even now, it's no easy, Bruce. It's a tough old league, and Scottish players, I've always said, Scottish people, they want to win. Scottish people want to win at anything. It doesn't matter if it's cricket, football, rugby, anything. Scottish people want to win. It's just in us. That's the way we are. And I think that's what the Scottish Premier League's about. They say they mightn't have great, really good, technically gifted football players, but it was the same then, Bruce. But I'll tell you what, it was a tough old league, and there was some really good players. So that was a difference I seen it. Just that wee bit, no getting booted up in the air.
So you come back up the road. Was there a big sense of relief? Did the boys just, oh, he's back, Mickey's back?
No, I was always. It was funny. I was actually phoned. I think I phoned Paul Kane because Kano was always your man. You go to Kano for everything. If you wanted anything, I used to go to Kano. A great friend of mine, and he's, as you know, he's recovering from a bad time at the moment, and but he was the man that I went to. I phoned him up and said, "Look, I said, I'd like to come back up the roads," and he was like, "Oh, I'll go and speak to them," And Kano had been and went to speak to. I think he spoke to Peter Cormack first, and then Peter told the manager, and then it was done very quickly actually. But the strange thing about it was I'd actually okayed it to come back up, and a couple of days just before it, I got a phone call from Graham Taylor, was the manager at Aston Villa at the time, and he'd actually inquired about me before I went down. But anyway, and he come on the phone and he says, "I'll think about it. Give yourself a couple of wee bit time," and I'd okayed to go to Hibs anyway. And he went, "Well, I'd like to come here," but I was never going to say aye. Bruce, it wasn't that. It was just the point. I wanted to come back up the roads. I was just missing home, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I just missed home. I missed all the nonsense that goes with playing in Edinburgh, being a football player in Edinburgh. I missed all that, so that was it. I eventually come back up the road. No, the players were great, and we come back in, and you just get on with it. It was just get back into the team, and I was horrendous for months. Absolutely horrendous. I wasn't fit enough. I wasn't right. I wasn't nowhere near fit enough to play in the Scottish Premier League, and I kind of got away with it for a wee while, but I knew that I had to get myself fitter, so I went about doing that. I never got much fitter enough, but I got a wee bit fitter. So now it was just good to get back up the road,
You got to do one of the things that I still think is missing for football now, and I loved it. And I was there. I wasn't there on the day. I think I was there the day before. How good were the 10 and 6s?
Oh, they were great. They were great games. They were absolute madness, though, wasn't it? It was madness because we kicked lumps at each other.
Did Paul Kane 1 year not playing goals?
Aye, Kane went in goals. Aye, we won it 1 year as well. We won it.
Aye, I was there that weekend, but I wasn't there on was it the Sunday you played? I think you played over the weekend, didn't you?
That's right, aye. And there used to be really good support. You get a good Hibs support, Hearts support, Celtic, Rangers, everybody. I don't know why they actually stopped it, but anyway, it was no, it was good. It was a wee change, because it was not as much running either,
How did you pick the squad? Who decided who got to go?
I've not got a clue. I don't know how we done it. It was just the manager, He just went with the manager. We're in the squad. But everybody wanted to play in it. Everybody wanted to play in the 10 and 6s. And you used to have quite big squads, if I can remember. You'd have to... the only thing I didn't like was... I don't know if you remember, you used to have a wee cubicle that you used to have to jump out. You remember? And you could walk through it, but you had to jump over this thing, and I could never get... Oh, I say, oh, no. I mean, looking at it and go, I can't jump over that. I remember saying to the manager, you need to bring that aside. I can't jump over that. So I always mind it, but it was great. It was really good. I enjoyed the 60s, and we won it one year. I remember we won it, but everybody wanted to play in it. It was a good for the supporters as well, because it was kind of, you were right up close to them as well, with the glass right round the outside it and that, It made you good. If it was a bad shot, it didn't matter. If it went miles over the bar, it didn't matter.
it was brilliant. It was, like you say, it was an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
But you also then had, like, you must have had to mix with the other teams. You must have had a bit of chat with the other teams.
Yeah, you did. They were right next to you. If you can remember, they were just right next to you. You'd have a wee banter with them and have a wee chat. But we went on. It was the same as when you went on there. It was just like, it was quite intense as well, because I can't mind how long they lasted, the games, but you only had a certain amount of time, and if you were, or the rules and that, you couldn't go certain play, you couldn't go over the halfway line and all that kind of stuff. And we were the brightest in the bunch, and I wasn't the brightest in the bunch, you know what I mean? So you'd always, if you went back, I think if you went over the pitch, you went over the halfway line, and you scored the goal, you didn't get, and all this stuff, and it was like. But no, all the boys loved it. All the players loved it. Every team, I couldn't say there wasn't many teams that didn't enjoy it,
There's a few wee things I remember, and I'll never forget Andy Gorham getting interviewed after it with the trophy in his hand. And he said to the interviewer, "That's brilliant. We've now qualified for Europe." And the interviewer didn't get what had just moved on. And it's like that was class, because it was a brilliant squad. JC was there, Brian Hamilton, yourself, Kano, Graham Mitchell, the goalie. It must have just been a brilliant laugh.
It was good. It was good. But as I say, when you went into these tournaments, you wanted to win it. You wanted to win it. That was the key to everything, was win it. And if I can remember, it was decent bonuses as well. There was money up for grabs, so that always helped. You know what I mean? So you got appearance money, all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot on it. But we had good players, good squad as well, and you always brought a couple of younger laddies along as well to give them a bit of experience. I can remember Billy Finlay playing in it, and he was outstanding. Billy was a very, very good football player, and it suited him, because he had great close control and he could pass a good ball. So it suited some players other than others. If you were a heavy tackler, and it was no good to you. If you were a good strong defender or things like that, it was no good to you, because it was a technical type thing, and you used to see them flying into each. So it suited some players and it never suited others, But, I loved it. It was great. I enjoyed it.
So I'm going to make you choose here. What was better, winning the 10 and 6s or winning the Skull Cup?
Skull Cup. Winning anything, Bruce. Winning anything, and you always look back and you want to win anything. Try and win something. And even the 6s, it didn't matter. You always felt as a self-achievement if you won something. So obviously a bigger thing, but it's amazing. I always made the manager saying that to me years ago, that if you get a taste for it, you get a taste for winning. If you win something, I used to think to myself, nah, that's no. But you do, Bruce. If you win something, I can remember playing 7-a-sides at Musselburgh. We used to play at Musselburgh Juniors on a full pitch. Could you imagine that? Like it was 6 or 7-a-side. And I used to, Olive Bank it was, and used to get a really good support that come to support the Hibs and support the Hearts. This big pitch, and it was, and you wanted to win it. It was great, big pitch, but 7-a-side, it was massive. The pitch was massive. But he didn't win, he went down there, and the supporters, so you wanted to win, but it was true, once you get a wee taste of something, never leaves you, Bruce. You want more of it. Eh? You want a wee feel. You want more of it. You know, if you win a cup, you want to get into, you want to play in Europe. You know, everything just. I always felt that you got a taste for it. You wanted a wee bit more of it. That's the way I always looked at it at that time.
That semi-final against Rangers, but I mean, what a cross and what a goal! But leading up to the final, did you feel like the job had already been done, or was it not? Can I take Dunfermline for granted?
I was always confident we would win the cup. You know, I was always confident, but football's the worst grave in the world for, you know, kicking you when you're doing, when you think you're doing well. Football will bring you right down to earth very quickly. So you learn that, you know. But no, I was always confident if we turned up, they were capable, because I think we played them a couple of weeks before it, and we won it at Easter Road. So that always in the back of their mind. If you've beat them the week before, you know, that was always in the back of their mind. But no, the semi final looked after itself. But when you got to the final, the pressure was on. The pressure was on. You know, because we were expected to win the cup. Then, you know, you beat the Rangers. It's a formality, but no for the players, because, you know, the pressure on that game was huge. You know, because Hibs didn't win a cup for a wee while, and obviously the thing, you know, the takeover bid the year before, the Hearts takeover bid. So it was a lot riding on that game, you know. And I'll be honest, I just wanted to go out in the pitch and play, because up to it was hard. You had to just, you know, I remember trying anything to keep my mind occupied, you know, for the week before it, try to keep your mind occupied. Because it was a new thing for me, you know, playing in a cup final. I'd played in big games, but I hadn't played in a cup final. It was a new thing for me as well. So pressure was on in that, but that's what you want, you know, as a footballer. That's what you want, the pressure games, you know, things where it really matters, and that was certainly one that really mattered to the Hibs support at that time.
It was a good side, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were a good side, very underrated side, and they had everything, you know. But I've said it many times. The thing that I always found with them was that they were a group. They were a group of winners. There was winners in there, you know, real winners. Willie Miller and, you know, Gordon Hunter, all of them. Graham Mitchell, Murdo McLeod, Hammy, Paddy, all winners. Big Tetkin, all winners. You know, because you sense it when you're playing with them, Bruce. You know, you sense it. And we had won a lot of games that season, but they were all, you know, good ones. Even the guys that were in they all played a part. You know, I always say that. You know, like see Mark McGraw, Joe Tortolanos, they all played their part in the games. You know, I never ever forget that. I always remember that, because everybody played their part all the way through the run. Everybody played a wee part. You know, Gareth Evans, all of them, all played a part in it. But what we had over it, we were a team. You know, there was no superstars in it. You know, you had to. We were a good team. We all got on well. You know, which is always good. And very underrated, you know, very underrated players, a lot of underrated players in the team. But as I said, the one thing that come for me was you knew you were in amongst boys that wanted to achieve something, you know, wanted to win. And it's a great feeling when you're amongst people like that. I was fortunate to be in amongst good players at the time. But no, it was really, really good team.
I don't want to give him too much airtime, but how much motivation came for the Wallace Mercer takeover attempt?
Oh, that was for the players that were at the club at the time when it was all going on. It was massive motivation, especially for myself, people like that, because we didn't. To be fair, we didn't realise. We didn't know if we were going to have a job the year before. You know, it was that close. You know, you didn't know if you were going to you were going to be playing for the Hibs, and the thought of there no being a Hibs was just incredible. You know, I'm thinking. But my dad and that my dad was always reassuring me. He'd always say, "Listen," he said to me, Michael, he said that the supporters will save Hibs. He says, "Don't you worry, the Hibs supporters will save Hibs," and he was right. You know, because he'd supported them for years. He went, the Hibs supporters will know like this happen. This will not happen. And to be fair, even the Hearts supporters wouldn't want in it. You know, because without the Edinburgh Derby, you know, it would never be the same, and it was never going to happen. No chance. Hearts didn't want it, and we didn't want it. You know, they didn't want part of us. We didn't want part of them. Never going to happen. You know, but when you're in that situation, you know, you're just thinking to yourself, oh, this is unbelievable, you know, but these things happen in football, Bruce. There's always something, there's always a drama in football at some point. There's always a drama. Every single day something goes wrong or something's up. And that's what it was like that at that time. It was intense, but it was worrying, but as I say, the Hibs supporters rallied and eventually they won the fight, you know.
I was on the terracing as a wee lad that day, and you then got the chance to go back to Easter Road, and the whole place just blew up. But what was it like when you got back to the changing room with no social media, no camera phones, just the squad, the backroom staff, the door shut? What was it like being in that changing room?
It was. I mean, words couldn't describe it. You couldn't describe it because just the way that we achieved it, you know, because it was virtually a team just started together, you know, and they went on a wee run. I knew early in the season, I thought this is a right good side. You know, this is a good side. And I'd been lucky playing with a lot of really good players. But it just seemed to click. The manager took credit, must take credit because he built a side that, you know, they all mixed well together and they all complemented each other. That's the side, to me, that's the secret of a very good side is they all complemented each other, you know, because I was nothing without Brian Hamilton, Pat McGinley, Murdo McLeod, Wee Willie Miller. Wee Willie was great because he was my minder, Wee Willie was my minder. So these guys, they made me because they done all the hard work as well. And you just sat out there and you knew they would do the tough stuff, you know, it needed to be done. And then you just added your wee part to it. But they were really good players, very underestimated. But as I say, they all complemented themselves really well, you know. And then you had that big striker up front. If he got a chance, if he got 3 chances, he would take 2 of them. Big Keith, he was a great finisher, you know, and you need that in every team. If you've got a finisher, and Big Keith was a very good finisher. A great lad as well, you know. But, thoroughly enjoyed it. Very fortunate to be in that side.
How big an impact did Murdo McLeod make?
Oh, Murdo had the t-shirt, you know, Won leagues, won cups, you know, played in Europe. You just looked at him and you thought, yeah, he's a real deal. Murdo was a real deal. He'd been there and he was a winner. He was fiercely competitive, you know, even in training. Oh, he was a fierce. But he rubbed off, certainly me. I looked at him, I thought, I get why you've won titles now. I get why you've won cups and, you know, played in Europe and whatever. And I have great respect for Murdo. He was very, very good player, but it was his attitude, determination, will to win, you know. And not just him, the rest of them, but he was, as I say, because you could look at him and go, you know, I've got somebody, he's on the pitch with me, you know, we're all right today. We'll go to these type of players, you know, because they've all done it, Bruce, you know, he'd been there and done it, whereas we were still learning how to do it, you know, but he just give you wee bits of advice. You can't buy that, you know, wee nuggets that you just can't buy it unless you've been in the situations he's been in. Wee nuggets that he gave you couldn't buy it, you know.
I love speaking to Mickey, and you're obviously massively passionate about the club. What was it like when the Scottish Cup finally got back to Easter Road? How did you feel as a former player and a fan?
I'm just like everybody else, a massive relief. You know, it was a relief. You know, because as you know, but some barren times, and I went through it myself. You know, and that year that we won the Skull Cup, I really believed that we could win the Scottish that year as well, and we had an absolute nightmare against Airdrie at home, and it was. And Airdrie seemed to be the team that we couldn't beat. You know, we could beat everybody else, but Airdrie, and they turned up anyway. But that day, standing, I was with Big Keith Wright and I was with a number of ex-players as well that day at Hampden. And there was just something in the air, there was just something told me that day. I remember being with Grant Stott, you know, and his father and that, and we all spoke about it, you know, and we were all saying, I think this is the day, you know, this is the day it's going to happen, you know, but you're always worried about, I don't know what it was, it just, I felt, you're going to do this. And you've had so many letdowns, as you know, you've had so many letdowns, and I'll be honest, Bruce, I didn't really want to go. I was terrified, because I thought, I don't think I can face another one, but something told me, you need to go here, you need to go. So I took my sons, one of them he was with his friends, but I took my youngest son, and it was his first cup final, and I didn't realise what it just achieved, I'm thinking, I've been to semi-final, I've been to cup finals, and we're being beat. You turn up for your first one, and you win it, it's just like, but it was amazing, absolutely, what a day it was, great day, and great, just as a sense of relief, you could see it, you just look round and you see grown men crying, and I must admit I had a lump in my throat that day. I was really emotional, because you seen that, like my dad never seen us win a Scottish Cup, my granddad never seen us win a Scottish Cup, my uncles, and I think everybody felt that, all supporters feel that. You don't really think about the day, you think about the people who never seen it, who followed the Hibs for years, never seen us win a Scottish Cup, and that was what come back to me. And because that was one thing that I always wanted to try and even get in a Scottish Cup final. I wasn't fortunate to do it, but on the day they were great. On the day they turned up, and thoroughly deserved it. Through the game they deserved it, and they had a lot of good players that they all played well. And that's what you need when you come to a cup final. You need everybody, or most of your team, to play well, and we had that. There was a lot of good players played well that day. But it was what a brilliant day for the support and everybody involved with the club.
Happy days. So, Kano was telling us a story about not just your pigeon. Sorry, not Kano. Joe T was telling us a story about it's not just pigeons you love, but you had greyhounds as well.
Oh, aye, I had everything, Bruce. I had the pigeons, dogs, I had everything. But the dogs, it was just, I loved it, enjoyed it. It's just simply, always felt that you needed a hobby. Always felt that I needed a hobby. I was just hyper, always needed something to keep my mind off playing football, try and get something else. And my dad and that were into it. It was back in the day when the greyhounds was a massive, sad the thing that's happened now with greyhounds. There's only one track in Scotland now, but back in the days were like 40, 50 tracks or something. But anyway, my dad got me into it. I just enjoyed it, the exercise, feeding them, and then it just carried on, and I had them for many years. Loved it. Some good nights, some really bad nights. I'm sure Joe T told you about a few of them, but no, I was just, as I say, I always liked something outside the game, and greyhounds was a brilliant, great hobby to have, for something to do,
So, you're some man. I could just imagine you're not somebody that sits still for very long.
No, I wasn't like that, and I'm still the same. It's just, I go along. I play with the boys on a Wednesday and football, and I got up this morning. I was saying to the lad, I was saying, I'm like a wee boy playing his first game, 10, 11 o'clock, buzzing for a game of football on a Wednesday. It's like, this is sad. You're sad. My brother said to me, "You're sad." He says, "You're sad. You're jumping about there like on." I just love it. Just love playing football. You got to remember, Bruce, I went through a bad time where I had a back operation, and I was told, I couldn't play for kick the ball for years, and I never thought I'd be able to play football again. I never thought. But once I got my operation sorted, I gave it the time it needed. And the surgeon, he did say to me, "Michael, you'll get back to a normal life." So I'm just going for it now, because I never thought it would happen. So every single game I play now, I'm just feel grateful for I have that chance to do it, because I never thought it would happen to me, Bruce.
And you're going to get to play at Easter Road again.
I am, aye. Well, I've been asked to come along playing a game, so I'm looking forward to it. Just to play on Easter Road again, but far change for that big hill. I'll not miss that hill. Remember the big hill we had?
I was going to say you'll get a fright when it's flat.
I've played on it. I've played on a couple of testimonial games, but you look at that hill, you say, I will get them. We'll beat them going downhill. You know what I mean? Down the hill, get them down the hill, and all that stuff. But no, you look at it now, it's changed so much, But I'm looking forward to it. Well, I'm not looking forward to the next day. I must admit, I'm not looking forward to the next day. But good to see the guys again, all the boys, a few boys that you played with as well. You know.
Aye, magic. How did it feel? I said I was going to stop, and I've just got to keep going. How did it feel knowing that? Well, even folk like me were running around the playground pretending to be you. Did you know that was happening?
I'll be honest, Bruce. No, as I say, I never ever looked at it as people looking up to me. And you know something, I'll be honest with Bruce, and I hate when people call me a legend. You know, I get embarrassed. I do. I still to this day think to myself, I'm not a legend. You know, Paddy Stanton's a legend. You know, Alec Cropley, all these type of guys. It's great to be called it, but I never look at it as I get embarrassed about it because I think I never played enough games or done enough for the Hibs to become a legend. But people call you it, so you just say, I'm thankful for it, but I've never ever looked at it that way. And even when I played, I never thought that some wee boy would be playing the playground thinking it was me, you know. So I just never looked at it that way. I just looked at it as I was a football player, playing for the club, and that was it. It wasn't really till we come out of football, you know, and you're sort of coaching or whatever like it be, and guys like yourself would start talking to you, and you know more about my game than I did, you know. They'd say to me, remember this game, you remember that game, and I'm thinking, I can't remember half of these games, but it's great. It's great when people talk about the games and that, but as I say, sometimes I get a wee bit embarrassed, you know, because I do, because as I say, I don't, never ever looked at it that way. I just looked at it as I was fortunate to play for the club that I supported, and I won a cup with them, and you know managed to play in Europe with them. If I'd looked at it, if I said that when I was a young boy, never have believed it. Bruce. Never have believed it was going to happen to me.
And that's why people call you a legend, because you've done things that we wanted to do. Mickey, I've loved speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving up your time.
No, thank you for having me, Bruce.
I think what I'm going to say to you is the same I said to Joe T. You'll need to come back for part 2.
I will. Oh, well, I'm sure Joe T will have a part 2. That's for sure.
Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
You got to love him. And it all came for this. Best day to beast day to Belgium. I got in touch with Colin Leslie and said, Colin, I need to do a podcast of these guys because they were the heroes of mine. I absolutely loved the book. You can get it in the Hibs Club shop. You can get it from www.bigcartel.com. What a perfect present for the Hibby in your life. Get hold of it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. Speaking to Michael Weir, an absolute hero of mine, big brother, favourite player in the world. He was like, oh, I can't believe you're speaking to Mickey Weir. Well, I have. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can get it on Apple, Acast and Spotify. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow Goals and Glory all over social media. Get involved. Tell your pals. Tell all your Hibby pals. Tell your football pals. Just tell everybody it's well worth a listen. I've loved it. My name's Bruce Aitchison from the Goals and Glory podcast, and I'll be back with more Hibs players very, very soon. Until then, look after yourself.